Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. My name's David. I'm an alcoholic, and thanks, Steve, for inviting me to be here today in this group. Um, so the object, I guess, of my talk today is to talk about step 1, 2, and 3. And I think that my experience is the step that I've probably struggled with the most in recovery has been step 1. I came into the rooms in December 1980, and so I've been here a while, and I never had to go back out. I never went back to drinking. So we're coming up, 42 years. Imagine, and yet I still say that the step I struggled with the most has been step 1, and not the first half of step 1. I think that the first half of step 1 I really, got really early. I mean, it was like I was pretty convinced that I couldn't quit drinking, and in my case using drugs as well, on my own. I had been a great quitter. I I was a regular quitter. I hadn't gone to the 12 steps, but I would often quit and get 2 or 3 days or a week or even longer, but I realized really, really early that I couldn't stay quit. And so my brother was sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and and he's now got, I think, 44 years in recovery. He's a couple of years ahead of me, and he'd given me a big book for Christmas in 1978, and I remember reading the book and drinking beer and recognized that I was an alcoholic. But the only thing I didn't understand the alcoholism. I understood that I couldn't, that I struggled with alcohol, and that I couldn't stay sober, and so when I came in, that was the big thing. I wasn't unable to see myself in my thinking, and so the process of over the years, it's really been a process of getting that my problem was my thinking, and I could say it, for a lot of years, that my problem was my thinking, but I was still uh trying to fix my thinking by with my from my own devices. I was trying to fix myself, and I just didn't really get that it wasn't about fixing me. It was, and even though I said it, that the name of the game was surrender. It's still uh, what a process of finally realizing that my own plans and designs on life just didn't work, and so I hope that lots of people don't have to go to through all the stuff that I went through, all the years of discovering the hard way that I can't run the show, and you know over and over again I've read in the book, the on page 60, I think it is, where it begins right after the ABCs, and it says being convinced we're now at step 3, and that piece uh, you know, that says the first requirement to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But it was so hard for me to see that I was still, running my life on self-will. And especially around, for me, some of the really difficult things to let go of were around work and business. And because what does God know about those things? And in my mind, I was like, what? And also in relationship, very difficult for me to over the years to let go of those things. And I see now but it took me a long time to get there. I see now that fear, uh, had me made it very difficult. Driven selfishness and self-centeredness, driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion, self-seeking. I mean, fear had kept me from surrendering. I was so terrified to really turn it over and live in a space of not knowing, you know, because my ego just thought it knew, and so difficult to see. And now as I work with people, in the way that I work with people has certainly changed over the years. And as I work with people in recovery and help, helping the folks to see, uh, their grosser handicaps or their defects of character, which is basically how we get step one. It's funny that we're doing step 4 and 5 helps us to see ourselves, and so I just share that over and over again, that my belief that I could somehow run the show was persistent, very persistent, and it's hard to describe in a way that because I literally couldn't see it. You know what? I'm sure that you know what I mean. I couldn't see that I was, uh, you know, living from self-will or from self-centeredness, um, and and I think some of it also had to do with, for me, that uh, and I'm just going to kind of bring in step 2 a little bit, because I my concept of God was, for many years, was influenced by my you know Sunday school religious training, and to actually realize that if Bill said in We Agnostics, God either is or he isn't, either he's everything or he's nothing, you know was a clue, like a huge clue that God was not separate. And for me, my concept, and everybody has what works for them in the moment. My concept of God as a separate, God, had to shift. And Bill talks in the book, I think, about 16 different concepts. And because how do we talk about God without calling it something, um, so I can just think of off the top of my head of a few, but universal intelligence, and the employer and the director and the father, and there's some of them I really liked. I loved the employer because it allowed me to just kind of surrender to my new boss, but something had to change for me to realize that the when Bill said God either is or he isn't, either he's everything or he's nothing, the word everything is like, wow, everything. So where then the question comes for me, where's God not? You know, if he, I mean he, she, it, that isness is everything, then where's God not? That is a rabbit hole that's just an amazing hole to go down for me. It's like, holy shit, uh, I'm in it. This is it. It's like, and even though, uh, lots of years I heard, we were like fish in the water, unable to see the water, you know, and but so surrendering, first of all, that, I desperately surrendered in the last, not that many years, that I could not run the show, and recognizing that my prayers, weren't to something that was separate from me. My prayers actually, uh, I see prayer as a vehicle to the moment, to bringing me into now. My experience of God, my God consciousness, if you will, what Bill talks about in the book God Consciousness, has to be in the present. And I know that sounds you know, a little Eckhart Tollish, but still, I mean, this is it. And how do I get to here when I'm always in my mind planning or judging or running everything through my belief systems? I had to surrender my belief systems. I really had to get that I don't know. I just don't know. And so from that place of not knowing, then as fear would come up, uh, in the book, it talks about, we use a prayer. We have the 4-step fear prayer with, God, take away my fear, show me what you have me to be, so I see the prayer now as not to something separate, but I actually see the prayer as bringing me into this moment, into the now. Because when I'm in fear, I'm not here, right? I'm just not here. I'm in some idea, I'm in my own crazy thinking. And it's my crazy thinking, which has been, you know, that I've been trapped in for, most of my life. And the only way out of it, I knew that I was trapped in crazy thinking. Step one, I'm able to manage my own life because of my crazy thinking, and that would how I see it. But for many, many years, I tried to fix my crazy thinking. I did affirmations, and I was always trying to fix this crazy thinking, and I realized that I can't fix it. I cannot fix my crazy mind. The mind cannot fix the mind, and I had to surrender and to this universal intelligence or consciousness that we call God, and not get caught up in the story of God. The, the story of a separate God, or the story of a religious God, or the story, and it's fine for those that have that. It just, I was brought up kind of with an overdose of that from my mom, God bless her, uh, and and I realized that my belief in that actually kept me from experiencing it. And so it's beyond belief. you know when in the book it talks about a relationship. And so in the early days, and in step 2, it talks about coming to believe. And then we, the step 5 promises, it says that we move past our beliefs into a relationship, into a knowing, into an experience of this thing that we can't describe, that we can't really name, you know, because as soon as we describe it or name it, it's no longer, it's that. And so, it's funny, uh, for me, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and somehow had a judgment that it was just about fixing my drinking or my behaviors. And then I traveled the world in recovery looking for awakening. And with all kinds of teachers in India, all over the world, and the awakening came out of the book. It took me a long time to see that it's really right there. And when we talk about in the promises, living from intuition, that we're literally becomes a working part of the mind. Our God consciousness is that's the gift. And I think that I think my experiences with lots of fellows that I work with is that we all struggle with when we hear this conversation that I'm sharing right now. Guys say all the time, yeah, but uh, so we have lots of yeah buts, and I had them for years, because I just couldn't with the mind conceive of how could I live, moment to moment. How could I live in a conscious uh, you know experience of this? And so maybe there is no other way but to go through all the pain of separation. But that's how, it's happened for me, is that it's no longer something that's separate. It The pain of separation, I mean, of letting go of the ego, because somehow for me, um, this crazy mind that was running the show seemed to be the boss, and with that mind it was really impossible to let go of that mind. So Bill, we talk in the program about the awakening of the uh, kind of educational variety, and I just think that years for me of prayer. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said, God, show me the whole picture. Give me the 50,000-foot view, and allow me to see, the whole mosaic. And so I've asked for this, a million times, and how many times I've done the third step prayer, and I recognize now that the prayer is really a contract. You know, it's it's me making a deal. It is a contract. I uh, I love that prayer, and I've said that prayer, literally, you know, thousands, uh, thousands of times, and I just love that prayer. In my home group, PPG here in town, almost every Wednesday night, we're in the back room on our knees with somebody doing the third step prayer, and it's PPG's primary purpose group, and you know, God, I offer myself to Thee, and you know, it's it's beautiful to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. So that is a real surrender sentence. That's me saying, okay, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. That doesn't get any more surrendering, you know. And yet, for most of us, and for me, most of my life, I would do the prayer and then be right back in, running the show, and I didn't learn how to pause. It talks about we pause when agitated or doubtful, you know, and the pause part of my life took a long time to engage, and to take our time with things. I was always rushing around, going off half cocked, uh, because I was living in fear, and to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self. So that's the request, because it was the bondage of self that really is what we're talking about in step one. Not my drinking, not my behaviors, but my thinking, the bondage of self. And I may better do Thy will. So the whole deal is a contract. Relieve me of the bondage of self, so I may better do Thy will. It's not so that I might have a nicer car or a nicer place to live, or a better girlfriend or a relationship, or all of those things that I thought were really important, or make more money, or and but so I better do Thy will. That's letting go of all of what I thought life should be, where I thought I would be happiest. But quite a chore, and I didn't let go it all go. It actually all had to be taken away from me, you know, and because I had muscled my way into, some pretty good financial success. I muscled my way into, some pretty amazing relationships, but it always had been me trying to get, and I think that for me, the psychic change is really living a life of trying to get what's in it for me, from that context of life, to how can I serve Thee, and so we go from being takers to givers, from fear to love, and it's just beautiful in this break. Relieve me the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to the outside help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Beautiful, you know, and So that's the the journey from uh, my opinion. I mean, there may be some new people in the group that are really what they want is to get off of substance abuse, or they want to stop their addictions, and I think that that's the easy part. Once we've got a little time in, that's the easy part, and then we go from there to living this life of service, living this life of stillness, and this connection with, or oneness with, this universal intelligence or consciousness, or spirit of the universe, whatever we want to call it. It becomes, we become still. you know we says we'll know peace, and peace it is. So those I love the third step promises too, and when we're talking about the third step for a second again, the you know just above the third step on page 63, like, wow, who wouldn't want these? It says established on such a footing. Even before that, we had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him, performed his work well. I mean, how could I be years and years and years in recovery and still think I had to look after myself? He provided what we needed if we stayed close to him, performed his work well. So for me, staying close to him is, prayer and meditation, also uh, helping others. Performing his work well is helping others, but it's also how I stay close. And it's he provided what we needed. There isn't any. It doesn't say he provided part of what we needed, or a little bit of what we needed, or sometimes what we needed, but it says he provided what we needed, and I just surrender into that. Uh, you know, Not that I don't struggle with it sometimes, especially sometimes around dough or on money. I'm like, sometimes I get a little tight, but all I have to do is just relax and allow you know life to happen through me. Instead of me living life, life lives me, or my relationship with God allows life to live me. Established in such a point, we become less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. So that's my thinking. That's like clearly my thinking. And I looking after, trying to run the show was very difficult on my body and my psyche. I mean, I was always stressed. I was always, looking not only at other people, with sometimes with judgment um, you know and doubt, but always with myself, with judgment and doubt. My whole story was, oh, you didn't do that well enough, or you should have done that better. It was a continuous, because that was the imprint of the conditional beliefs in me, was that I really was not good enough. And so living from that place of conditioned beliefs, whether it doesn't really matter how it got there, whether there was trauma or not, or all of that stuff. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't look at how it got there, but looking at how it got there doesn't change it. This is what changes it. And is turning our will and our life over, and 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis is what allows me to live free. And so more and more, it says, our little plans and designs, more and more became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. So what a beautiful gift. Step 3, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence. So it's not about a belief, it's actually a consciousness of his presence. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, the hereafter. We were reborn. Step 3, baby. So it's um, I don't know about, it's interesting being in front of a screen and talking, because it's hard to actually get a feel for what, I love speaking live because in a room, because you can actually connect with people, and it's different. I'm feeling this in the moment, this, you know, not being able to hear the sounds and stuff. But um, for me, this surrender in step one, I don't know that I can describe it much differently than that. It's just that I had to stop running the show. And and for the realization of that um, was a tough journey, and I don't want to take away in any way. I mean, from the beautiful things that happened, say in my first 35 years in recovery, because lots of beautiful things happened. My kids grew up, and I have two kids in recovery. It wouldn't have happened, and but it just feels like uh, this last 5 years have been, or 7 years have been, so much more amazing, and the struggle stopped, and so I mean, all of that was necessary. I guess it had to have been. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't necessary. But I don't think that it's necessary for us all to kind of go through the depths of it, like I feel like I had to. And I have a lot to be grateful for. There's no question, and I am grateful for all of those years, and got to travel the world, and hopefully made a difference in some folks' lives over those years, so yeah, no complaints. So that's, for me, that's really, I mean, kind of step one, two, and three in a nutshell is, surrender, absolute 100%, in moment to moment, and the practicing for me, being present. And I teach a meditation on Monday nights. I don't know if I teach meditation. You can't really teach meditation. I lead a meditation group on Monday nights, and for me, meditation is about sitting quietly, being present, being here, uh, I know that for a lot of years I traveled with different teachers, and the message was always, be here now, and I was like, what do you mean? Am I not here? And I just couldn't see the out of my psyche. I couldn't see out to realize that I hadn't been. And now that this discovery, that this realization that um, who I thought I was a story, the story of David, based on what I've been taught, my conditioned beliefs, my cultural beliefs. They were all, and I was making all my decisions from that place, and which is a very limited place, information wise. It was, to tap into this, unlimited, infinite oneness. Um, Sometimes how I describe it, I have a young fella that I was working with the other day, and I said, imagine that you're a personal computer or a laptop, and he was like, yeah. And just imagine that even though you have the best operating system, the best software, you're disconnected from the cloud, and so you have this amazing, you know $4,000 laptop with the best operating system and the best, and there's a couple of viruses in it. So no matter what you do, it's limited in its operating power, and it's got a virus or two. Well, in our case, maybe a virus or 10. And so what happens is that the laptop does not want to be connected, to the cloud, to the internet, and so it resists. The laptop says, no, I can fix myself. I'm sure I can fix myself. And that's kind of how I had been for years, trying to fix this, self-help groups. I've read, you should see my bookshelf. I mean, I've read it all, and trying to fix the mind on the level of the mind. And the same thing. And when I was telling, I think I used this analogy yesterday with a young fella, Daniel, and I said, and then all of a sudden you plug the laptop into the internet, into the cloud, into basically, endless source of information. Well, that's what we do, each moment when we breathe and we stop and we pause, we drop into this space, and we can't really identify it as something, but just in the space we know we're there. We're in it, and it just becomes more and more obvious as we practice being here now. And sometimes the way that I have, I bring my conscious connection with God or universal intelligence or consciousness or isness or whatever we want to call it, is to come into my body physically, to literally feel my feet on the floor, sometimes in the car, just to actually see my hands on the steering wheel, and I'm in my hands, I'm here. Certainly using my breath brings me into this space. And but often we have, many of us, and myself included, I had this grandiose idea of what being connected to God was, some very big picture of something, with trumpets, drums, and all of these things that have been our conditioning around spirituality, um, and 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 it's, in my experience now, is that it's not that. It's just really this stillness, this quiet, and and I have to be still to hear it. I have to be still to allow it to move through me, and to use me, like the prayers all suggest. And so that's my experience, with step one and two. Certainly with step two, my experience had been that there was lots of things I had to let go of, my concepts of God, and it wasn't that I needed to find something to believe in. I needed to let go of all kinds of things that I thought I believed in, and to find this presence, is isness. I like to call it isness, because it's, it can't be described. And and uh, and then, of course, with step three is many people say, step three is a commitment to do the rest of the steps, and yes, of course that's true. And to be able to see ourselves and what it is that we're letting go of, which happens in the next few steps, and clean up the wreckage of the past, so we're not carrying, even when we realize that we had shame, or that we have guilt, or that we have a complaint or judgment, each time that we start to see it, we surrender it, and it becomes a practice of letting go of those things. And so anyway, I didn't talk my 45 minutes, but I really appreciate you guys being here, and it's I don't know if that was um, that's step one, two, and three today. Thank you.